WEF.
Yeah.
When people went there. Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you before, because I'm fascinated by Egypt, is when you had Randall and Graham on, Randall alluded to technologies that I've actually done some research, even though you shouldn't do your own research. I've done some research on and thought about how they move those fucking stones. And there's a lot of people with theories about using frequency to be able to move the stones. And Randall mentioned on that podcast that he'd been working with the company for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And that there was technologies about to come out. There was actually somebody who did something similar in Florida, I believe, built a structure.
Oh, the Coral Gables. Yeah, the Coral Castle, rather.
Has anything come from that? Do you know?
No. I mean...
Because they still can't, I mean, they talk about, slave labor or log rolling, but these mega-ton, stones that were used to build the pyramids, like... what they say, how it was moved and the time it would have taken and the manpower, to me, is complete bullshit.
It's also how far they had to take them through the mountains.
Where the quarries were.
No machinery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like it's so immense and so incredible that it's there as a reminder that something was different.
But I don't think there's ancient technology like that could have been used.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure they had something, because they do find things that are indicative of drills, diamond tip drills, because they've cored in a way that had to be insanely high speed diamond tip drills that cored
stuff
into
that
granite.
We can
barely do.
Yeah.
And then it's just the sheer mass. I mean, the amount of stones, 2,300,000 stones in the Great Pyramid. And they're perfectly aligned, a true north, south, east, and west. It's just the whole thing about the quarries being hundreds of miles away. The whole thing is nuts. It's not primitive people. It's super advanced people that did that. And it's super advanced people that lived in a society that's very different than what we think of as existed 10,000 plus years ago.
Well, speaking of the super advanced society, what do you think about, have you looked into the Tartarian stuff at all?
I was watching a video today about it. Yeah. It's a lot
I think
of
that's
kooks.
pretty fascinating, though.
Yeah, it is fascinating that there was an advanced society, but there's also a lot of kooks. A lot of kooks involved in that. But I think that if I was...
though. And I think that's some of the... Maybe some of that's controlled to keep people from looking at some of that stuff. But if you look at the World's Fair of the early 1900s, there's some really weird shit around that.
Like
about
what?
The structures that they built over them they were supposed to take down in some of these cities, about some of the technologies that were used in some of the architecture, and how some of that architecture isn't standard with many of the other buildings of the same era, what they were doing on top with free energy possibly on some of these buildings. It's pretty wild stuff.
So like free energy, like Tesla, what would Tesla...
Like they were able to extract energy from the atmosphere, that electricity for everybody. I think they had, and you can maybe bring something up, Jamie, but I believe they had mercury in these, was it copper, kind of balls on top of the buildings, and they figured out a way to extract energy just from the air. And,
really?
Yeah.
So where'd you read this?
Just online. It's a lot of interesting comments about it.
A lot of nuttiness. Marshall, get out of there, buddy.
There's a lot. I think there's a shred of truth in
he went over there and stole Carl's toy.
I did.
You little thief! How dare you, buddy?
Jamie, you gonna back me up on some of this Tartarian?
Yeah, he's gonna try to find it. Is there like a really good, reliable source of Tartaria information?
I haven't. I mean, wouldn't Graham be one? Has he?
I don't know if he's into that. So what is the theory? The theory is that even more recently...
That there was more recent... Yeah.
An advanced stream...
The theory is there was an advanced civilization that had certain technologies, and that some of the recent history is bullshit, and that the World's Fair built structures over the top of these...
Well, some of the World's Fair stuff can be explained by like Universal Studios style. Like it was just facades to look, but they were... covering certain buildings because people were coming to see stuff. That's just some of
the QAnon of architecture.
Of course. Anytime you want to discredit something, just put fucking QAnon
or MAGA. QAnon or MAGA. Those are great. 1908, architect Ernest Flagg completed the Singer Building in Lower Manhattan, a Beaux Arts showstopper made for the Singer Sewing Machine Company from a wide-based A slender 27-story tower rose, topped with a mansard roof and a delicate lantern spire. Every inch dripped with sumptuous detail inside and out, vaulted roofs, marble columns with bronze trim, window mullions with spiral. I don't even know what a mullion is. With spiral fluting. The lobby was said to have a celestial radiance, a book written about its construction. For a year, it was the tallest building in the world at 612 feet and a celebrated landmark for decades after that, but not too much longer despite its great height. The pencil-thin tower lacked office space. In the 1960s, the company sold it. Its ornate headquarters. Demolition proceeded in 1967. It's the tallest building to ever be peacefully demolished. Peacefully. Interesting. By any account, it's a fantastical tale. Once the tallest building in the world and a New York City icon, knocked down in just a handful of decades.
It's like the part at the bottom here, that adherence to the theory of belief. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So you need to find something about the top of these buildings, what they had.
Tartaria Rises. Tartarian-themed content is produced for YouTube videos that get picked over on Reddit. Our Tartarian Architecture sub, which began in 2018 December, has 3,300 members, though not everyone who posts and comments appears to be a true believer. A larger and more general sub that appeared around the same time, Our Tartaria, has 8,700 members. As conspiracy theories go, Tartaria remains obscure. Twitter user Cinema Shoebox brought it to many people's attention last year with this thread. A pseudoscience debunking writer, Brian Dunning. Oh, I remember Brian. Remember that guy? Recently devoted an episode of his podcast, Skeptoid, to the Tartaria story, which appears to have emerged in 2016 and 2017. Tartaria story.
This is where, then they tie in the
explaining a lot of the stuff
and stuff, but
I want to find the energy stuff that he was asking
about. Yeah.
I just think the architecture is pretty fascinating. Some of these.
Scroll back up.
Scroll.
You went a little too fast there. This guy wrote slightly more. I think it was one worldwide civilization, says Joachim Skar, a 26-year-old Norwegian who runs a Tartarian Meltdown YouTube channel. It was all based on unity, oneness, peace, love, and harmony. Okay. Which we don't see in today's society. Well, that is very utopian. Sure, I'd love to believe that was the case.
It's an interesting idea.
Well, there was probably some technology that got squashed